Hey guys, we made it to season 5 of the Us People podcast. I'm your host, Savia Rocks, and in this season, we aim to empower and embrace creativity through diversity as we dive into the fascinating stories and experiences of a diverse range of individuals, highlighting their unique perspectives and creative endeavors, from artists and entrepreneurs to innovators and activists. We celebrate the power of diversity in driving creativity and fostering positive change. Join us as we engage in thought-provoking conversations like
I made myself intentionally homeless in pursuit of my purpose.
We're aware that a lot of people want to present and they were in my position, and what's worse, they weren't a white male, which is a joke that's even still a thing.
I think my family never ever say you can't do something, so full of support for whatever dream. If I said tomorrow I want to fly to the moon, they'll probably say I wish you all the best, Mel.
So guys, I just want to say thank you for supporting the Us People podcast for the past 5 years, and we look forward to sharing another new theme song with you. Let's go.
Hey, my name is Jugal. I'm a spoken word poet, rapper, and creative practitioner, and you are listening to Us People podcast with Savia Rocks.
To overcome a lot of obstacles just to get
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Us People podcast. I'm your host, Savia Rocks, and today I have the beautiful Duke here with me, who is a spoken word poet, a beautiful author, rapper, and creative practitioner. Duke, thank you so much for coming on the Us People podcast. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really good. I'm feeling nice and relaxed. Excited to do this podcast with you. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad. It's not often I get asked that question, so when I do get asked it, I'm actually quite humbled. I'm doing really well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
No, you're welcome. So my first question for you is, could you tell me a bit about your background, of where you grew up and how that influenced you to be the person who you are today?
Oh, interesting question. I grew up in South Wales, just outside of Cardiff, in a place called Dinas Powys. I grew up on a housing association with, my mum's a single mum with the three of us. So two of my other siblings, but I've got two other siblings as well. It's quite complicated. So my older siblings, one of them lives in North Wales, Luke, who's a legend, of course, and my other older sibling, so they've got different dads. She was sort of living with us, and then ended up moving out, obviously because she was a bit older, so she lived with us for a bit. But yeah, I used to see my dad every other weekend, and my mum really brought us up really well, and she's my rock, she's my hero. I love her to bits. I love my dad to bits as well. Got a good relationship with him, and we didn't really grow up with a lot of money. It was quite, times were tough, I remember. But my mum was always there to provide and support us. So that was amazing. And I think part of the person I am today is a reflection of the way I've been brought up. So I can only thank my mum and my dad, and if that makes sense.
It does make sense. It makes complete sense. So can you define who you are as a person, but also who do you see when you look in a mirror? But on the flip side of that question, has there ever been a time when you have looked in a mirror and not recognized the person staring back at you? How did you make yourself or heal yourself or transition, I should say, from being in the position where you felt like you didn't recognize yourself to becoming the person that you did want to be?
There has been a time where I looked in the mirror and struggled to identify who I was in terms of my race.
Mm-hmm.
So this was late last year, I discovered the word colorism. I know, quite late to the party. But so I'm mixed race. So my grandma's from Jamaica, and my dad's white Welsh, and most of my life has been sort of, I guess sometimes like black people saying I'm not black, and then white people saying I'm not. Like struggling to fit in. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, most recently, I experienced colorism. I've experienced it when I was younger before, but I didn't know it was called colorism. But I experienced it, and I had other mixed race people or other black people basically saying that, basically saying I'm not black, or not, or I look, or all I do is look white, and it just really hurt me. I find colorism is the same branch, is off the same branch of. Sorry, is off the same tree, is a branch off the same tree as racism.
Yeah.
So yeah, it did hurt me. So I had a couple of months where I was just looking in the mirror, just thinking, I don't like, where am I black? Am I not? Am I this? And it really got to me. And then I've come out of it now, and I love who I am. I know who I am. It was a very important lesson for me to learn, and it was very important for me to come out there in a positive way, because I write poetry as well to express how I feel, and I think I did that. And then I came to the conclusion that I don't want to be any colour. I don't want people to see me as colour or race. I want people to see me as my personality, as my ethics, from my morals, the things that I believe in, the things that I want to aspire to achieve. I want them to see me for the person, not just, ooh, is he black? Is he Spanish? Is he white? So yeah, that was quite interesting. I hope that answered that question.
It did answer the question. It answered the question beautifully. So it makes complete sense to me. The next one I'm going to ask you is, how did your journey begin becoming a poet? A poet is a beautiful way of expression, and there's so many ways to express yourself within creativity, within being a poet. But where did your journey begin?
My journey begins 11 years old, where I started writing raps and poems in my old lyric book, because I was inspired by hip-hop artists, especially USA hip-hop artists, such as Eminem, Tupac, 50 Cent, Biggie, Andre 3000, Outkast and people like that. I loved US hip-hop. That's what I grew up on. But also, big respect to the UK artists as well, especially at one time I was really loving Loki and Dizzy Rascal. But I would say my main influences are definitely USA hip-hop. And I love storytelling. And I love songs that are clever and use lyricism. I'm not about rap that just raps about nothing. It has to have substance in terms of a message or something that's clever. I love things like that, which is why I like those artists, because that's what they usually would write about. So I started writing, and then I got to 12, 13 years old. I started experiencing these horrifying intrusive thoughts. And I didn't really know what to do. I didn't want to tell anybody because I was young and afraid I'd get judged for my intrusive thoughts. Because I just thought I thought it was crazy. Or I was questioning, my crazy. And they were really horrifying. We all get intrusive thoughts. But what happened to me was I then started to feel responsibility to prevent them from happening. And I had this massive weight on my shoulders. If I didn't do things a certain number of times or a specific way, over and over again, that it would be my fault that these intrusive thoughts would happen.
Yeah.
And basically I found out that I had obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, a heavily stigmatized and misunderstood mental health condition. And that's what OCD is. OCD is not just, I want that to look tidy and clean. It's a lot deeper than that. It's far deeper than that. you get this intrusive thought, and the nature of the condition, it really, really makes you think or feel responsibility to prevent it from happening. And in your mind, you know it's completely irrational, but it's the what if, it's the uncertainty. And you can't escape uncertainty, whether you've got OCD or not. But that's what OCD plays on. It plays on the uncertainty. And these intrusive thoughts will target the things you love most, your morals, your ethics, your values, everything that the worst case scenario in your head it will target. So if a person who's listening, if you really want to try and figure out what that would feel like, think of something you really love. This could be a person, this could be you doing something. Now think of the worst thing that could happen to that thing or that person. And now imagine imagine yourself having to perform certain rituals or compulsions, as we call them, a certain number of times to prevent it from happening, and never ever quite feeling you've done it well enough. So basically what I'm trying to say is OCD is time consuming, it's full of anxiety and stress, and it's relentless. And I'd say it's been the toughest challenge of my life, still is today. But just to keep answering your question, I then turned to the pen.
Yeah.
So my brain told my hand what to say, my hand told the pen, and the pen told the page, and I expressed myself through poetry and raps before I told anybody. The pen was there to listen to me, the page was there to listen to me, and that is how I articulated how I felt. It was my escape, it was my therapy, it was my lifeline. it was everything to me. Until I eventually, as I slowly got older, I opened up to my mum, opened up to my dad separately, because obviously, they split when I was 3, and then started opening up to the odd friend here and there, but mainly kept it close to me. 16 years old, 15, 16 years old, well, 14 maybe, but more so 15, 16, discovered alcohol. That became a negative coping mechanism. Mm-hmm. So a binge drink would make me feel, in fact, as soon as I consumed any alcohol, it would make me feel as though I could fight my head. And I don't have to listen to the intrusive thoughts anymore, and I don't have to perform compulsions. I would sort of become aggressive with myself and be like, no, I'm not doing that. That's not going to happen. And then, unfortunately, quite a lot of bad things have happened due to alcohol in my life as I grew up. I also played a lot of rugby, and in rugby in sport was also a massive positive coping mechanism. But after the game, you always have a binge drink. It becomes like a natural thing. So that didn't really help me. But yeah, 16, I went to something called CAMS, which is sort of youth mental health, which was relatively helpful, but I didn't get the specific intervention that I needed, which was OCD specific cognitive behavioral therapy and exposure response therapy, CBT and ERT. And things got worse and worse after I left them, and it didn't quite help me. I tried fluoxetine for 6 weeks just to actually, I'm skipping ahead. So 21 years old, I got really drunk, and I was walking home. I saw a car coming towards me, and I timed it perfectly. So, well, I say perfectly. I timed it so it would hit me as I walked out, and then it hit me, and I smashed the windscreen, smashed my face on the floor. And I didn't want anything to end, but I just wanted to hear silence, and I did hear silence. Even though, I would never ever tell anybody to do that. Please never get to the point that I was at. But after that, I got rushed to hospital. Luckily, I was okay because I was so drunk I just bounced on the floor. But I then finally got the help I needed, which was the OCD, specific OCD, cognitive behavioral therapy. I went on group therapy with other people living with OCD as well, and exposure response therapy. But before that, they told me to go on medication, and I've never ever wanted to go on antidepressants, but I did it just to make them happy. I tried antidepressants. Sorry. I tried fluoxetine. That's it. I tried fluoxetine for 6 weeks, and all I could feel was the compulsions and the intrusive thoughts building up and being masked in the background. It was just masking it, And I just I had to stop it because it was just this massive build-up. And as soon as I stopped it, I've had to deal with this mountain of horror, should we say. And it was really, really tough. And I personally, for me, I know some people are different and they might try different things and it works for them. But personally, for me, I've never agreed with them. I tried it. Again, silly of me, try and please other people. Story of my life. Yeah, it did not work for me, and I would personally never ever do that again. But hey, I'm 29 now. I've been through CBT again because, as I said, OCD is every day, and you just learn to manage the condition. Knowledge is power as well, right?
Yes.
So the more knowledge we have, the more we can educate ourselves, the better we can be at managing our conditions. And and now poetry is my job, which is amazing. So that's sort of, a bit long-winded, but trying to paint the picture, should we say.
No, you painted it beautifully. I think, do you know what I find amazing is that when you can turn what you love into a career, and regardless of what you're going through in your life, say for example OCD and anything else that you've been through in your life, you've given yourself the belief to say that you can still turn something that you love, something that helps heal you, and something that helps to express how you feel inside emotionally out so other people can take that in, because everything is energy. I always say everything is energy. How you're feeling when you pick up the pen and you start writing, the words you use so eloquently, all these things help to build your story of who you are as a person. The one question I do want to ask you is, some people say cope, some people say handle. With OCD, how do you help yourself? Like you said, the word cope. So how do you help yourself in the terminology of coping with having OCD for anybody else who might have it? And what would you say to them in the terms of, if somebody wants to get help but doesn't know how to? Because sometimes we deny what we have, and sometimes that's just a human thing. It's not a bad thing, it's just a human thing that we go through the denial before we go through the truth. What would you say to anybody who has OCD and trying to find help for it?
I would say, first of all, the first thing I would say is hopefully they're brave enough and feeling strong enough to seek professional help. Because, as I said, the cognitive behavioural therapy, specific OCD cognitive behavioural therapy, was massive for me. It really helped me. It helped me look at OCD in a different perspective. It helped me understand my condition better. There are loads of types of OCD as well, and I just learned about why you have those intrusive thoughts and why you do the compulsions, and those whys are important to understand. So that, I think that would be my first thing. But if you're not quite there yet, because OCD is a very lonely mental health condition as well. Nobody wants to tell you what's going on in their head because they think it's so horrifying, and it's so traumatizing and awful. So it becomes very lonely. You don't tell anybody about it. So what I would say creativity. The power of creativity is phenomenal, and the power of the imagination is phenomenal. We've still got our imaginations. Even though we have OCD, we still have our imaginations. That is a superpower nobody will ever take away from us, should we say. So yeah, for me, it was poetry. It was writing rhymes, it was writing raps, and just being honest with the page. Just literally just putting my pen to paper and just letting myself run with it and just go with it, and just getting all these horrible intrusive thoughts and these feelings and trying to understand them and articulate them onto the page. That was very powerful. But if you're not a writer, maybe give it a go, give it a try. But you might be a painter. See where the paintbrush takes you.
That's true.
You might be you might be a sculptor. You might like to do origami.
Yeah.
Anything creative. The power of like human beings need creativity, in my opinion, and to use their imagination. And I just believe that can really help. So that's what I would say.
If there was anybody in the world that you would like to work with, an artist that you feel that you would connect with and work with, who would it be and why?
Ooh, wow. There's many. There is many. I'd probably say, to be honest with you, the first one I'd love to work with, of course, would be Eminem.
Fair enough.
I'm going big. I don't care. I'm going big. Eminem has inspired me so much. I think he's so clever. His lyrics they're just phenomenal. They're just extremely clever. And when you break them down, there's so many different meanings and messages within them.
That's true.
And like he's got a song called Darkness. I'm not sure if you know this song called Darkness.
Mm-hmm.
But he plays on him about to sort of put on a show / struggles with alcohol and he struggled with different prescription pills and Valium and things like that, I believe. And he plays on that, but all the way through that he's mentioning these drugs and this alcohol, and a lot of the alcohol in America, like Colt 45 for example, I believe is a beer, but it's also a gun, right? And there's all these very, very clever things, and you think he's about to get on stage and put on a show, and he's probably maybe writing something from back in the day when he was really struggling, but he was actually writing about the Las Vegas shooting. And it was just so cleverly done. That's what I mean by storytelling. It's just extremely clever and has such a powerful impact. And then he sort of brings it back to at the end, shows all the news with all the shootings and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying a message, about all these shootings, how awful it is. Yeah, and Stan's like one of my favorite songs ever.
Yeah,
I think it's so clever. But yes, Eminem, and I'm really quick. I'd probably say NF as well, and NF specifically because he's so honest when he talks about his mental health. He's also got OCD, so it'd be really interesting to do something with him. But there we go. We will see. You never know.
I always say aim high.
That's it, of course.
Aim high. And all it takes is, I always say to people, all it takes is one person to hear you, to see you, to listen to you, to decide that they want to work with you. Nothing is impossible. The only limitation is what we put on ourselves. And I always say that. So teachers, this is a big question. So teachers, we all have people, it doesn't have to be in school. Every day is a lesson, and we educate ourselves through the people we meet and what we do for people.
Mm-hmm.
If there was anybody who was a teacher to you in your life and has taught you anything of a valuable lesson, it could be a valuable lesson, it could be something that you take with you every day, who would you say that person is, and what have they done to help you in your life?
Ooh, again, many people have helped me. With even just a phrase. That's a really good question. But one that comes to mind is my mum, who always told me, live life with as little ifs as possible. So that's always stuck with me. And a very similar thing, I met this guy, again, met him for about 2 minutes. But I always remember what he said. He said, whatever you think about most, you will become. And that stuck with me as well.
That's actually really true.
So I try and live my life with just trying to do everything I want to aspire to do. And even if it makes me feel, in fact, if something makes me feel uncomfortable in terms of like nervous or something like that, I make sure I do it, because on the other side of that, and again, this was probably Will Smith, on the other side of fear is euphoria. I'm not sure what the actual quote is, but Will Smith said something like that. So yeah, all these people, loads like different artists influence me, family, friends, even somebody who I just met for 2 minutes. If there's a line that I resonate with, then I will remember it.
This is kind of putting you on
and God,
the spot.
of course.
Of course, naturally.
Naturally, of
naturally, of course. If you if you could, I should say,
Yep.
if there was a song that was, I know you spoke about Eminem, but if there was a song that was the soundtrack of your life, lyrically, I know you spoke about Eminem before, what song would you choose and why would you choose that particular song?
The soundtrack of my life. Right. It's a good question.
Hey, I like this.
It's a very good question.
It's hard because you have to think of something lyrically that connects with who you are as a person. And what makes our brains go blank sometimes is we just think of everything at once. But sometimes it's the most simplest of songs that resonate with us.
I'm influenced by loads of different genres of music. Like if it's a good song, it's a good song. Even though like, you know when I said I'm massively influenced by hip hop, that's very true. But you know, when I was 11 listening to hip hop, I know, you know, if it's a good song, it's a good song. I love opera as well. I love Nessun Dorma. I love Andrea Bocelli. So it's hard. It's hard because it's a very good question. It's very tough.
Okay, let's move on. So if you had the industry, and it could be the music industry, in the palm of your hands, there are so many things within the music industry that are good, and there are so many things in the music industry which are bad. But if you had the music industry in the palm of your hands, what would you change within it to make it better?
Make it easier, more accessible for artists who are often struggling and maybe from deprived areas to be noticed. Give them the same opportunities to be noticed.
I like that.
Yeah, and you know, make people equal, I guess. Yeah, have equal opportunities. There's so many artists out there. Starving artists, they're called, right?
That's right. That's what they are called. Yeah.
You know, there's so many fantastic artists out there who never ever, they call it make it, don't they? And again, this whole record deal and stuff, I think I'd scrap all that. Nobody needs a record deal to be told that you're good at music.
I like that.
There's got, I don't know what the answer is, by the way, but there must be a different way. You don't need a record deal, because they're picking, these record companies, they're picking like, I don't know, let's say there's 500,000 artists.
Mm-hmm.
They're picking like a random, you know, 1,000. What about all the others who've got something to say? Now don't get me wrong. In the 500,000, there's probably 250,000 who are probably maybe not the best.
That's
and
true.
then you're wiping out a couple of 100,000. You know, another 100,000 might be they're not really into it. This is just the thing that they do on the side. You
Exactly.
know? But then you've got the people who are really passionate, and that you've got the cherries who are not picked because of maybe their circumstances or things like that. So I don't know. I just don't feel like a record deal is the best way, but I don't know what the best way is. And also streaming is just awful in terms of money for artists. I'll change that as well. Like you're actually paid well for each stream. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot I'd change with it, and that's just off the top of my head. I'd also change it in terms of the label telling you what to say and how to be. No,
Yeah.
like that. Again, by the way, I'm not signed to a label. This is just what I've heard from, you know, seeing other artists as I've grown up, being a 90s kid and all that. How dare a label say what you should be as an artist? It's ridiculous. How dare a label say you should do this song? The artist, it should all be authentic for the artist. A label should support, not tell.
The problem with the industry is that they think that basically you are a product. That's
Exactly.
how they see you as. They see you as a product. They don't see you as they see you as a product and an investment. And what they do is they'll tell you how to dress, what to wear, when to wear it, how to wear it, who to be with, who not to be with, you know.
Exactly.
And that is manufacturing you. That is not letting you be authentically who you are as an individual and letting your creativity really shine. I love artists who rebel. This is just me saying this. I love artists who rebel and go against the grain and say no. And you don't need a record label. They're going to hate me for saying this, but you don't need a record label. I think it's just about educating yourself within music publishing, which is very important. And knowing, having a vision for yourself. I think that's definitely something.
I think there are record labels out there who want to support more, and I think that's probably developing more and more now, which is very positive. But again, I can't say from experience because I don't have a record label. I'm just going off from what I've seen, and maybe that was naive of me, but who knows? The stuff that I've seen, I've not liked, should we say?
Yeah.
But yeah, good question though.
No, it's all good. So, if I was to say to you, what do you feel most proud of that you stand for as an individual? What would you say to me?
I'm proud of myself, to be honest with you. I don't mean that in a big-headed way. I mean that in terms of my battle with mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also grateful.
You're very humble too.
That I am where I am. Like it, for over 15 years, it was. I mean, I'm telling you now, it's a battle today. I did compulsions today. Do you know what I mean? It's part of my daily life. But there was a point where it was debilitating, and it was very self-destructive, and it was really bad, like really, really bad. And I made my family worry. I made my girlfriend worry. I just did not look after myself. I got type 1 diabetes as well, diagnosed at 23. And then I just neglected my insulin. Insulin keeps me alive, and I neglected that because of my OCD. Yeah, I just think, I'm proud that I'm the man I am today, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say.
That makes sense to me. Let's talk about you having diabetes. You just said that you developed diabetes when you were in your early 20s. Talk to me about the process of you actually knowing that you had diabetes, but also what you've been through having diabetes. And just for anybody who doesn't know, what is diabetes and how do you develop it?
So type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune condition where I believe it's the beta cells in your pancreas. I think they're attacked, or the body attacks them or doesn't allow them to produce or something like that. Don't quote me on that, but something like that. And basically it stops your pancreas from producing insulin, and insulin is key to living. If we don't have insulin, we will die, and that's as simple as that. So Frederick G. Banting and MacLeod and Best and the fourth one. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't think of the fourth one. But these amazing people, 100 years ago, or just over 100 years ago now, discovered insulin. And before that, people with type 1 diabetes would go on something called a starvation diet, where they pretty much weren't allowed to eat anything. And within 2 years, or far sooner than that, but I believe the maximum, within 2 years they would die. And so why were they put on a starvation diet? So they were put on a starvation diet because any carbohydrate that is consumed with a person living with type 1 diabetes, the carbohydrate, the glucose, when it goes into the body, it turns to glucose, of course, and then we have no insulin to allow the blood to absorb that glucose.
Yes. So
our blood sugar levels, normal is between 4 and 7. They would just keep going higher and higher and higher because there was no insulin.
Yeah.
And the higher they go, which means all the glucose is floating around in the blood. There's no energy, so the body then, I guess, panics, goes into panic mode and thinks, I need energy. So then you hit something called diabetic ketoacidosis, DKA, where the body will literally eat itself in terms of its muscles, start feeding on its bones because it needs energy. So that's how vital insulin is. And then there's that whole thing with injecting enough insulin. So every day again I call it an educated guessing game, because every 10 grams of carbohydrates, I inject 1 unit of insulin. However, if I'm going to the gym, I would have to half that. If the sun was out and it's a really hot day, I'd probably have to half that. If I eat certain foods like pizza, it's like a double hit. So I have to inject maybe half straight away, then half a few hours later. So all these things to consider. I forget the number, but a person living with type 1 diabetes has to make a lot, many more decisions a day. So if you inject too much insulin, you go into something called hypoglycemia, where your blood glucose levels drop lower than 4 or 3.5, should we say. And the best way I can describe that is I go into survival mode. So I become very shaky, I become extremely agitated, sometimes I sweat. And I run around the house or wherever I am. I say run round, I can disguise it quite well. If I'm out, I'll disguise it. But inside I want to Hulk out. That's what I would say. I want to Hulk out inside. So the best way I can describe it is if you've ever been hangry, think of being hangry times 20. That's how you feel. Because your body needs glucose straight away. Otherwise, it could be fatal. Again, it could be fatal. If you go too low, you can pass out, and then it can be fatal. So it's having that balance. It's a bit of a balancing game, should we say? But again, it is manageable, and I do manage it well. I didn't always manage it well, as I said. I struggled with the condition with my OCD as well, because my OCD is a lot about numbers, and you have to inject certain numbers. So my OCD attaches different intrusive thoughts to different numbers. So sometimes it would be the wrong number which I didn't want to inject. So then I just either inject too little or too much. On the very rare occasion, too much, and then run around the house quickly eating carbohydrates before I go into a hypo, which again is very silly, but I'm just sort of being open about how we should be treated holistically, really, because they both bounce off each other. And then there's been times where I've injected, and I felt like when I've injected, it was that intrusive thought was in my head when I injected. So I need to put the needle in again. So then I'd stab myself like 20 times, because 20 was like a good number with the needle. This is how complex both conditions. They're both complex conditions. I appreciate everybody's got their thing going on, but I'm just telling you what my thing is.
I like it. I like the fact that you're open about it.
And it was a struggle. When I first got diagnosed, I was losing weight rapidly. I had dry mouth, urinating a lot in the evenings. Any liquid that would touch my lips, I couldn't help but neck the whole drink. So there's sort of common symptoms of diabetes. And then the weirdest thing for me is, so I like to go to the gym, look after myself. And when I was going to the gym, I'd have no pump in my muscles. And that was like alarm bells were ringing. Like my muscles were really squidgy when you've worked out really hard and you've got no pump. It's very bizarre, because I guess you need insulin for that.
Yeah.
So that was like the biggest thing that made me then go to the doctors. And then, so I got diagnosed. I accepted it for like 2 weeks, and then I just hit frustration, anger, and then I went into self-destructive mode. But then, eventually came out of that as well. So the way I look at it is that we are all, well, actually, sorry, type 1 diabetes as well is, so I wear a Libra, so I scan myself now with this Libra, and it tells me what my levels are, which is amazing. So type 1 diabetes technology is rapidly changing. And I always say, I've got this little poem actually, which I'll quickly do. It's called Bittersweet. They say when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, bitter, sweet. I think about this lemon phrase as I penetrate just below my belly button waist height. The needle thin pierces into my skin. I self-medicate insulin so I do not waste away from DKA. Most days my mellow brain interrogates my pancreas. Why are you refusing to do your duty? Answer me. My hands are up. An understanding I may never gain, but to be alive in this life within 100 years since insulin was developed, hey, what are the chances? If I was going to get T1D, I guess it's good I got it now. I mean, it's easier to treat. Bitter, sweet. So that's why I say you have to look at it in a positive thing, 100 years, that's it, and I'm alive now to have this treatment. So that's amazing. What are the chances, literally?
That's true.
So and the way, sorry, just to conclude everything, I believe that in life we are given challenges, and I believe my challenges so far are definitely OCD and type 1 diabetes. They've been massive challenges for me, but I also believe we're given choices. And I've made the wrong choice many times. Do not get me wrong. I've drunk myself silly many times, and it's not been good. But evidently, I've come out of it. I've made the right choice, and I have the will, and I want to look after myself. So I stop drinking so much, and I go to the gym, and I believe that, and I believe that for everything. I believe we always have a choice, what to do. So. Whatever challenges somebody's going through in life, they're not easy, which is why they're challenges. They're hard to overcome, of course they are. But also, God doesn't give you anything that you cannot overcome. He won't give you something too hard, basically.
That's true.
It'll be very hard, but He knows you can do it. So that's a lovely quote as well. So that's what I believe, basically.
I like that. I definitely like that, which kind of leads me on to my next question. After everything that you have been through, are going through, and continuously battle through, when is the last time you felt totally at peace with yourself?
I don't know. I'm learning piano.
Oh.
I'm trying to learn to play the piano, and I was at a lesson the other week. And we were doing some improvisation. Mm-hmm. And I was in the moment. So I would probably say, actually quite recently then. But I would say if I'm ever writing poetry, if I'm performing, I'm always in the moment. And I believe you're at peace with yourself when you're living in the moment.
That's true.
Because you're not living in the past. You're not having existential thoughts about the future, for example.
That's true.
I believe being at peace with yourself is whatever you're doing in that moment. But it has to be something positive.
I like that. That makes complete sense to me. So, if I was to turn around and say to you, what would you give up in your life to become a better writer?
Nothing.
I like that. I was hoping you would say that.
Straight up, nothing.
I was hoping that you would say that.
My life is my life, and this is the way it is. That's it.
See? Oh, I like that. So, we've been through several different avenues of what you've been through in your life, your professions of who you are. But more importantly, I want to ask you, when you feel like you have done everything that you possibly could to help people, to write all the poetry and express yourself in the ambient way that I know you do and just have by telling us a poem, what would you like your legacy to be? And how would you like to be remembered as a person?
When I write my last rhyme, I won't look back, 'cause ahead is a future where the ghosts will act. From the deep impact of my poems and raps, I'll really go ghost on a coastal path, where I close all apps, where my soul's relaxed with both my cats, and those who I hold so close we dance as I plant some hope in every broken plan. That's a verse of a song that I'm dropping soon. And I guess that means the song's called Ghostly. And the metaphor is I'm ghostly in the background because I'm just doing me. I'm not consumed by all this mainstream things. Or, as we spoke about record deals earlier, I'm not writing meaningless songs just to sell records. I guess that's what ghostly means. I'm doing me and I'm being my authentic self and writing meaningful things for myself. So I say all the other ghosts that I hope to inspire, that also want to write meaningful things and have a positive impact in the world. I just hope that my words can just help people, and make people think about things in a different way, whether that be about mental health or whether that be about, I don't know, the government or different things like that. I just hope evidently it inspires positive change and helps people, I guess, be the best versions of themselves and get through life in a meaningful way, and make sure that they do things that they want to do.
That's so important. That is so, so important. Before I have the pleasure of thanking you for coming on the show, I would love everyone to find out where they can find you in all your social media platforms, or just anywhere in general where they can find out about you.
Awesome. So I post mainly on Instagram, but I'm starting to get my YouTube channel going now. I've not got many subscribers, so subscribe. So you can find me at Duke Al. So my artist name is Duke Al, so Duke space Al. Al is my middle name. And if you search me on YouTube, I will be there. And if you search me on Instagram, Duke Al Durham, that's Duke Al, then Durham is my last name, so Durham. I'm also on Facebook, Duke Al, Twitter, Duke Al Durham, and I've done a couple of cool things. One of the coolest things I've done is I've been on BT Sports and did a poem for Sir Lewis Hamilton, so check that out.
That's pretty cool.
And Apple Music and Spotify Music coming very soon.
You say that, guys. Stay tuned. And I'll put everything in the description once your podcast is out. Duke, I want to thank you so much for taking your time to come on the podcast. You have such a beautiful, calm energy throughout the whole podcast, but just in general anyways. And I want to thank you for your compassion, your kindness, but most of all, your honesty for coming on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I felt very chilled out and relaxed, and thank you for making it such a comfortable experience. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Guys, I want to thank you so much for listening to the Ask People podcast. And please remember, you can subscribe and leave us a review on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and any other platform that you prefer listening to. Please also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can also donate to the Ask People podcast by simply going to the Savvy Rocks website, or just typing in www.paypal.me/Us People podcast. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Stay happy, stay positive, and as always, please continue to be kind to one another.
For being so inviting, but I really enjoyed your questions. I thought they were really thoughtful questions. But one that comes to mind is my mum, who always told me, live life with as little ifs as possible. So that's always stuck with me.
Redirect this to you, you'll see the power in yes, if you try. I fly like I'm Superman. Spread your wings and let the wind glide. I fly like I'm Superman. Spread your wings and let the wind glide. I fly like I'm Superman. Spread your wings and let the wind glide. I fly like I'm Superman. Spread your wings and let the wind glide you high. We're just soaring through this journey, leaving fear far behind. Our hearts are full of courage. You can win if the power in us. If you